Hello, online pipe community. Ethan, parsimonious piper, and I am here to get today again with,
Otter Piper.
and we are going to be doing C.S. Lewis Screwtape Letters number 10. Without further ado, take it away.
My dear Wormwood, I was delighted to hear from Tritweeze that your patient has made some very desirable new acquaintances and that you seem to have used this event in a really promising manner. I gather that the middle-aged married couple who called at his office are just the sort of people we want him to know: rich, smart, superficially intellectual, and brightly skeptical about everything in the world. I gather they are even vaguely pacifist, not on moral grounds, but from an ingrained habit of belittling anything that concerns the great mass of their fellow men, and from a dash of purely fashionable and literary communism. This is excellent, and you seem to have made good use of all of his social, sexual, and intellectual vanity. Tell me more. Did he commit himself deeply? I don't mean in words. There is a subtle play of looks and tones and laughs by which a mortal can imply that he is of the same party as those to whom he is speaking. That is the kind of portrayal you should specially encourage, because the man does not fully realize it himself, and by the time he does, you will have made withdrawal difficult. No doubt he must very soon realize that his own faith is in direct opposition to the assumptions on which all the conversation of his new friends is based. I don't think that matters much, provided that you can persuade him to postpone any open acknowledgement of the fact, and this, with the aid of shame, pride, modesty, and vanity, will be easy to do. As long as the postponement lasts, he will be in a false position. He will be silent when he ought to speak, and laugh when he ought to be silent. He will assume, at first only by his manner, but presently by his words, all sorts of cynical and skeptical attitudes which are not really his. But if you play him well, they may become his. All mortals tend to turn into the thing they are pretending to be. This is elementary. The real question is how to prepare for the enemy's counterattack. The first thing is to delay as long as possible the moment at which he realizes this new pleasure as a temptation. Since the enemy's servants have been preaching about the world as one of the great standard temptations for 2,000 years, this might seem difficult to do. But fortunately, they have said very little about it for the last few decades. In modern Christian writings, though I see much, indeed more than I like, about mammon, I see few of the old warnings about worldly vanities, the choice of friends, and the value of time. All that your patient would probably classify as Puritanism. And may I remark in passing that the value we have given to that word is one of the really solid triumphs of the last 100 years. By it, we rescue annually thousands of humans from temperance, chastity, and sobriety of life. Sooner or later, however, the real nature of his new friends must become clear to him, and then your tactics must depend on the patient's intelligence. If he is a big enough fool, you can get him to realize the character of the friends only while they are absent. Their presence can be made to sweep away all criticism. If this succeeds, he can be induced to live, as I have known many humans live, for quite long periods, two parallel lives. He will not only appear to be, but will actually be, a different man in each of the circles he frequents. Failing this, there is a subtler and more entertaining method. He can be made to take a positive pleasure in the perception that the two sides of his life are inconsistent. This is done by exploiting his vanity. He can be taught to enjoy kneeling beside the grocer on Sunday just because he remembers that the grocer cannot possibly understand the urbane and mocking world which he inhabited on Saturday evening, and contrariwise, to enjoy the bawdy and blasphemy over the coffee with these admirable friends all the more because he is aware of a deeper spiritual world within him which they cannot understand. You see the idea. The worldly friends touch him on one side and the grocer on the other. And he is the complete, balanced, complex man who sees round them all. Thus, while being permanently treacherous to at least two sets of people, he will feel, instead of shame, a continual undercurrent of self satisfaction. Finally, if all else fails, you can persuade him in defiance of conscience to continue the new acquaintance on the ground that he is, in some unspecified way, doing these people good by the mere fact of drinking their cocktails and laughing at their jokes, and that to cease to do so would be priggish, intolerant, and of course, puritanical. Meanwhile, you will, of course, take the obvious precaution of seeing that this new development induces him to spend more than he can afford and to neglect his work and his mother. Her jealousy and alarm and his increasing evasiveness or rudeness will be invaluable for the aggravation of the domestic tension. Your affectionate uncle, Screwtape.
Well, a couple of things jump out at me right off the bat. On the surface, Lewis is talking here about how important your choice of friendships can be, and particularly for a new Christian versus someone more mature, that if you have a poor choice of friends, people who do not share your beliefs, you have a real chance of living a double life of doing things to please them and acquiescing in some of the, as he said, the assumptions that are made that underlie your conversations, that if you don't agree with those assumptions because they contradict your faith, and yet you fail to speak out because you don't want to lose these new friends, it diminishes your faith with every opportunity. Well, the principle underneath this then is really compartmentalization. And humans can be brilliant at taking their lives and breaking them up into little boxes and keeping those boxes from ever touching each other. Classic example for someone who goes to work and church. Chances are very good that you have a set of church friends and a set of work friends and a set of friends in your neighborhood, and that these, unlike a Venn diagram, these circles never intersect. They never meet each other. They never know each other. And as a result, you can, if you choose, be three different people in each of those contexts. You can be a pious, wonderful Christian with your church friends and tell the dirtiest jokes with your work friends. And and we as humans, we justify this. We're able to say, that at each of these situations, my behavior is okay because X, and we'll have some justification for why it's okay to do that. This is a real danger. It's not just something that we look at from a psychological standpoint. And Screwtape is saying, hey, look, take advantage of this. Drive it home. Don't let him become aware of the bad character of his friends until it's too late and he's been sucked in and he really, really wants to keep their friendship and their admiration. So he'll do things that he knows he really ought not. And this this in fact then separates it. It diminishes his faith and separates him from the behaviors he knows he should be exhibiting, to a point where his faith becomes dead.
Definitely. And as I was reading through the letter a few times, after a couple times, as you were mentioning, it hit me that, at least for me, it was important to remember that he's a new Christian. This is new to his life and to his faith, and so his faith might not be that deep. He might have a exuberance at some point in the beginning, but the faith is going to be tested, and it's going to be tested by these new friends to see, how deeply is is his faith, and uh, is he going to talk about it, depending on what these new friends are sharing? Is he going to acquiesce under fear, and which is obviously what Screwtape would like to do? And then thinking that this was written, I believe the first one was written in 1941, and we think today of how much technology has advanced and social media and so forth, and how that's brought this letter to a whole new level, and that we can be on YouTube, we can be on Instagram, and being a little older, I know there's a lot more now, TikTok and so forth, and how easy it is to be tempted to be one person in our maybe social media world, and are we a different person um, in our everyday life? So that back and forth, I think Screwtape and Wormwood really have so much more of a playing field with that, as you mentioned, with that compartmentalization of our lives.
And boy, does technology make that even easier. It really just does. Where, in my example, I was thinking of three cases of people that we have direct eye to eyeball contact with. But yeah, you throw in social media as another layer. And the truth is that because nobody ever has to see you in social media, um, you can, there are people out there who do uh, vlogs who wear masks. Um, so nobody ever knows what they look like. You can mask your voice. You can be anything you want. And yeah, so this uh, technology just lets us compartmentalize, gives us the more opportunity to do that than has ever existed before. And when you look around and see what people put on Facebook, for example, uh, it's not real life. Um, and so Screwtape and Wormwood have already succeeded in a large extent to getting people to do this, to living one life and presenting another, and to reconciling that as this is normal, this is perfectly okay. And it very much happens in the faith realm as well. People will get on social media and they will only talk as if they have everything together, and when in fact their lives may be a shambles. And they'll, they can reconcile those two things very easily because we have become experts as a society at compartmentalizing everything we do.
And even thinking of as pipe smoking, and thinking that this is a baby Christian, and I, think of myself, I'm a newer and baby pipe smoker within a year on a more serious level, and talking about faith, unlike other faiths within the Catholic faith, we've never really shunned drinking or smoking. Um, so I don't come from a view or a standpoint where it's that difficult, but at the same time, whether Catholic or not, pipe smoking has come under the auspice of cigarette smoking, and it's bad. So there's still, I've had to look at myself, because I love when we have pipe smokers that celebrate it, and it's a good challenge to me to make sure I'm not acquiescing because I'm feeling like people might judge me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it would be really easy. I grew up in a denomination that was, we don't drink, smoke, or chew, or date the girls that do. So um, so this was definitely, this was an evil device for me growing up. And yes, you does that mean that there was nobody in my denomination who smoked a pipe or cigarettes or anything? No, but they certainly hid it. Um, and we don't have to hide things quite so much anymore. But we still justify either doing things, as Screwtape was telling Wormwood, to maintain a friendship, or not doing them, not speaking up, not defending our faith or our beliefs when we should, that sort of thing. It becomes really, really easy with all of the technology we have. If you notice the jump cut, we took a short break to relight. Folks, I hope that this discussion of the notion of compartmentalization and the perils of allowing ourselves to behave differently, and to justify our thinking and behavior in different contexts, uh, if that becomes really real to you. In the meantime, do what we always tell you: like something you like. We'll see you next week.